Isn't it rather wonderful to think that a simple coin, a small flat disc of metal, can tell a story that spans thousands of years? When we jingle the change in our pockets, we rarely stop to consider the epic journey those little objects represent. Yet, in the case of Austria, the coins are not just currency. They are miniature time capsules, each one stamped with the triumphs, tragedies, and transformations of a nation at the very heart of Europe. From the sandals of Roman legionaries to the powdered wigs of Habsburg emperors and the sleek modern designs of the Eurozone, Austrian coinage offers a quite dazzling narrative. It's a tale filled with powerful empresses, world-famous composers, and the relentless march of history, all captured in gold, silver, and copper. The story of Austrian money is, in many ways, the story of Europe itself. It begins, as so many European stories do, with the Romans, whose denarii first introduced the very concept of a standardized currency to the tribes living in the shadow of the Alps. From there, the narrative winds its way through the dimly lit halls of medieval castles, where local lords minted their own rather crude but essential pfennigs. It then bursts into the glorious Gilded Age of the Habsburgs, a dynasty whose power and influence were so vast that their coins, like the famous Maria Theresa Thaler, became the world's most trusted currency. It's a journey that reflects the ebb and flow of empires, the chaos of war, and the quiet revolution of economic union. What makes this numismatic journey particularly fascinating is its sheer variety and artistic flair. The Austrians, you see, have always had a knack for making beautiful things, and their coins are no exception. The Vienna Mint, one of the oldest and most respected institutions of its kind, has been at the forefront of this artistry for over 800 years. Whether it's the intricate portraits of emperors, the bold heraldic eagles, or the delicate instruments of the Vienna Philharmonic Orchestra, each design is a small masterpiece. These coins are not merely tools for commerce. They are declarations of identity, symbols of power, and portable pieces of national pride that have traveled across the globe. So, let us embark on a rather splendid adventure through time. We will unearth the ancient Roman coins buried beneath Austrian fields, witness the birth of a great mint from the proceeds of a king's ransom, and marvel at the silver coin that conquered the world through trade, not warfare. We will navigate the confusing currency reforms of the 19th century, endure the dark days of the 20th century, and arrive finally in the present day, where the legacy of this rich history lives on in the gleaming euro coins and the magnificent bullion pieces sought by collectors everywhere. It's a story that is quite literally worth its weight in gold, and it begins, as all good stories should, a very long time ago. Long before Austria was a twinkle in a Habsburg's eye, the land was a bustling frontier of the mighty Roman Empire. The provinces of Noricum and Pannonia, which roughly correspond to modern-day Austria, were important territories, rich in iron and strategically placed. And where the Romans went, their money followed. The first coins to circulate widely in this region were not Austrian at all, but Roman. Imagine a Roman soldier miles from home using a silver denarius, perhaps bearing the stern profile of Emperor Augustus or the wild hair of Nero, to buy a drink at a local tavern. These coins were the lifeblood of the empire's economy, a unifying force that connected a lonely outpost in the Alps with the grand heart of Rome itself. The discovery of Roman coin hoards across Austria gives us a quite thrilling glimpse into this ancient world. Archaeologists have unearthed pots filled with sestertii, denarii, and auri, bronze, silver, and gold coins respectively, often buried by their owners in times of trouble. Perhaps it was a merchant hiding his profits from marauding tribes, or a family fleeing an invasion, hoping one day to return and reclaim their fortune. Each coin is a tangible link to an individual's life and fears. These finds tell us what the locals were using for trade and how deeply the Roman economic system had penetrated the region, slowly replacing older systems of barter with the sophisticated concept of standardized, state-issued currency. What's truly fascinating is how these Roman coins set the stage for everything that came after. The very idea of a coin, a piece of metal with a guaranteed weight and purity, stamped with the image of a ruler to vouch for its value, was a Roman innovation that would echo through the centuries. The names of the coins themselves left a legacy. The denarius, for instance, gave its name to the dinar in various countries and influenced the German pfennig and even the British d for pence in the old pounds, shillings and pence system. The Romans didn't just build roads and aqueducts, they laid the very foundation of European monetary thought. When the Roman Empire eventually crumbled in the 5th century, its sophisticated coinage system fell with it. The centuries that followed were a chaotic period known as the migration period, where various tribes swept across the land. With the collapse of central authority, the steady supply of uniform Roman coins dried up, trade reverted largely to barter, and life became far more local. The grand interconnected economy of the Roman world was gone, and the silver denarii that once flowed freely became rare relics of a lost golden age. A new, more fragmented chapter in Austrian monetary history was about to begin, forged in the fires of the medieval world. After the Romans packed up their eagles and left, Europe entered a period we romantically call the Dark Ages, though it was probably more murky than truly dark. For centuries, coinage was a rather messy affair. Without a central authority, coin production became highly localized. Local dukes, bishops, and powerful lords began striking their own coins. The most common coin of this early medieval period was the pfennig, a small, thin silver coin. These pfennigs were often crudely made and varied wildly in weight and purity from one territory to the next. Imagine the headache for a traveling merchant trying to figure out if 10 pfennigs from Salzburg were worth 12 from Vienna. It was a confusing system, but it was a start. The big turning point for Austrian coinage, and indeed for Austria itself, came in the late 12th century, thanks to a rather famous bit of royal skullduggery. In 1192, Duke Leopold V of Austria captured Richard the Lionheart, the King of England, as he was travelling home from the Crusades. The price for the king's freedom was a staggering 150,000 marks of silver, an absolutely colossal sum. When this ransom was paid in 1194, Duke Leopold suddenly found himself with a mountain of silver. What to do with it all? He decided quite wisely to use a portion of this windfall to establish a new mint in his capital city, Vienna. And so the legendary Vienna Mint was born. The founding of the Vienna Mint, or Münze Wien as it is known today, was a game changer. It marked the beginning of a more centralized and reliable currency in the region. With its vast silver resources, the mint could produce a large quantity of high-quality coins. Over time, other denominations emerged alongside the pfennig. There was the groschen, a larger silver coin that was worth several pfennigs, and the kreuzer, which originally took its name from the cross, or kreuz, stamped on it. This move towards different denominations made commerce much easier, as you no longer needed a whole sack of tiny pfennigs to make a large purchase. The Vienna Mint quickly gained a reputation for excellence, a reputation it still holds over 800 years later. Its coins became trusted throughout Central Europe, helping to establish Vienna as a major center of trade and finance. The mint's ability to produce reliable currency was a key pillar of the rising power of the Dukes of Austria, and later, the mighty Habsburg dynasty. The ransom of an English king had, rather unexpectedly, laid the financial groundwork for an empire. The age of small local pfennigs was giving way to an era of grander ambitions and even grander coins, minted by the dynasty that would come to define Austria for the next 600 years. When the Habsburgs rose to prominence in the late 13th century, they began a dynastic reign that would shape Austria and Europe for centuries. Being emperors, archdukes, and kings of just about everywhere, they needed a currency that reflected their immense power and the vastness of their territories. And so, the Habsburg era ushered in a golden age of Austrian coinage, both literally and figuratively. The small silver coins of the medieval period were joined by magnificent new denominations that became the bedrock of European commerce. These were coins designed to project power, facilitate international trade, and of course, fill the imperial coffers to fund their armies and lavish courts. One of the most important coins of this period was the gold ducat. First introduced in Venice, the ducat was adopted by the Habsburgs and became the gold standard for trade across the continent. These were beautiful coins, typically bearing a portrait of the reigning monarch on one side and the imperial double-headed eagle on the other. With a consistent weight and a high purity of gold, about 98.6%, The Austrian ducat was trusted by merchants from Lisbon to Moscow. It was the currency of big business, used for major international transactions, royal dowries, and bankrolling wars. To hold a gold ducat was to hold a piece of universally accepted wealth. Alongside the prestigious gold ducat, the workhorse of the economy was the silver gulden, also known as the florin. The gulden was the standard unit of account, the coin that people used for everyday large purchases, paying wages, and calculating taxes. It was a substantial silver coin, and its value was originally tied to that of the gold florin of Florence, hence its alternative name. The monetary system was rather complex, with a gulden being worth a certain number of the smaller kreuzer coins. This relationship, however, often fluctuated, leading to the kind of monetary confusion that would make a modern accountant's head spin. Life was simply more complicated before decimals. But perhaps the most influential coin of all to emerge from this era was the thaler. First minted in Joachimsthal in Bohemia, then part of the Habsburg lands, this large silver coin was such a success that its name, thaler, echoed around the world. It became the daler in Scandinavia, the tola in Slovenia, and most famously, the dollar in America. The Joachimsthaler, soon shortened to thaler, was the blueprint for large silver crown-sized coins across Europe for centuries. The Habsburgs, with their vast silver mines in Tyrol and Bohemia, produced them in enormous quantities, making the thaler the quintessential coin of the Holy Roman Empire and beyond. Among all the magnificent coins struck by the Habsburgs, one stands head and shoulders above the rest, the Maria Theresa Thaler. This remarkable silver coin is not just a piece of Austrian history, it is a global phenomenon. First minted in 1741, it bears the portrait of the formidable Empress, Maria Theresa, the only female ruler in the 650-year history of the Habsburg dynasty. The most famous version, however, is the one dated 1780, the year of her death. After she passed away, her successor, Joseph II, allowed the Vienna Mint to continue striking the coin with the 1780 date as a trade coin, a decision that cemented its legendary status forever. The design of the coin is a masterclass in imperial branding. On the obverse, we see a mature and stately portrait of the Empress, looking rather formidable with her widow's veil. The inscription reads, Nim Theresia DGR Imp Hubo Regi, a Latin abbreviation for Maria Theresa, by the grace of God, Empress of the Romans, Queen of Hungary and Bohemia. The reverse features the imperial double-headed eagle with the coat of arms of Austria at its center. The beauty, the high silver content, and the consistency of its production made it instantly recognizable and deeply trusted. People knew that a Maria Theresa Thaler was a reliable store of value, no matter who was currently on the throne. The truly extraordinary part of the Thaler's story is its global journey. It became the most widely used silver coin in the world for over 200 years. Its popularity exploded in the Middle East and Africa, particularly along the trade routes of the Red Sea and in Ethiopia. In many regions, it was the only currency the locals would trust. It was used to buy coffee in Yemen, slaves in Ethiopia, and ivory across East Africa. It became so entrenched that many countries simply adopted it as their de facto currency. The coin's consistent weight and fineness meant you didn't have to be literate or know Latin to understand its value. You could simply feel its heft and see the familiar face of the great empress. Amazingly, the Maria Theresa Thaler is still being produced today. Mints in Vienna, and for a time in other cities like London, Paris, and Rome, have struck hundreds of millions of these coins, all bearing the same 1780 date. They are produced as restrikes for collectors and investors who appreciate their historical significance and high silver content. For a coin to remain in continuous production, unchanged for over 240 years, is utterly unique in the history of money. The Maria Theresa Thaler is more than just a coin, it is a cultural artifact, a testament to a powerful empress and a symbol of an era when Austrian silver ruled the trade routes of the world. The 19th century was a time of immense change across Europe, and Austria was no exception. The old, confusing monetary systems, with their gulden, kreuzer, and thalers of varying standards, were simply not fit for the new industrial age. A modern economy needed a modern currency. The first major step towards this was the Currency Convention of 1857, which saw the Austro-Hungarian Empire align its currency with the German Zollverein, or customs union. This reform introduced a new, slightly lighter gulden, divided into 100 kreuzer. For the first time, Austria had a decimal-based currency, a huge leap forward in simplifying calculations for businesses and ordinary people alike. It was a sign of the times, a move towards standardization and efficiency. This new system, however, was based on silver at a time when the rest of the world was increasingly shifting towards the gold standard. Britain had been on the gold standard for decades, and the new German Empire adopted it in the 1870s. For a major power like Austria-Hungary, being on a different metallic standard was a significant economic disadvantage. So, in 1892, Emperor Franz Joseph I initiated another sweeping currency reform. The silver-based gulden was to be replaced by a new, modern, gold-backed currency, the krone. 1 gulden was exchanged for 2 kronen, and the new krone was divided into 100 heller. The introduction of the krone was a moment of great national pride and a symbol of the empire's modernity and economic strength. The new coins were magnificent, especially the large gold 10, 20, and 100 kronen pieces, which featured a dignified portrait of the aging Emperor Franz Joseph I. These coins represented the glamour and confidence of Vienna at the turn of the century, a city of waltzes, coffee houses, and intellectual ferment. The gold standard was meant to provide stability and ensure the krone's value on the international stage. For a brief, shining moment, it seemed as though the Austro-Hungarian Empire had successfully navigated its way into the 20th century. Alas, this golden age was not to last. The outbreak of the First World War in 1914 shattered the economic stability of Europe. The gold standard was immediately suspended as countries, including Austria-Hungary, needed to print vast amounts of paper money to finance the war effort. This led to rampant inflation, and the krone, once a proud symbol of imperial power, rapidly lost its value. By the end of the war in 1918, the Austro-Hungarian Empire had collapsed, and its currency was virtually worthless. The grand experiment with the gold-backed krone had ended in disaster, paving the way for yet another chapter in Austria's turbulent monetary history. The aftermath of the First World War left Austria as a small, struggling republic, carved out of the heart of a fallen empire. The old krone was worthless, destroyed by hyperinflation. To restore economic stability, a new currency was desperately needed. In 1925, the Austrian schilling was introduced. Nicknamed the Alpine dollar due to its stability, the schilling was initially backed by gold and quickly became a symbol of the new Austrian identity. The coins featured national symbols like the eagle, Edelweiss flowers, and designs celebrating the country's provinces and cultural heritage. For a time, the schilling provided a much-needed sense of normalcy and hope for the young republic. This period of stability was brutally cut short. In 1938, Austria was annexed by Nazi Germany in the Anschluss. Almost immediately, the Austrian schilling was abolished and replaced by the German Reichsmark. This was not just a currency change, it was a complete absorption of the Austrian economy and identity into the Third Reich. For the next 7 years, German coins and banknotes circulated in Austria. The disappearance of the schilling was a painful symbol of the loss of national sovereignty. It was a dark period, and the coins in people's pockets were a constant reminder of who was in control. Following the defeat of Nazi Germany and the end of the Second World War in 1945, Austria regained its independence. One of the first acts of the newly liberated nation was to bring back its currency. The Austrian schilling was reintroduced, severing the monetary ties to Germany and re-establishing Austria's economic sovereignty. For the next half-century, the Second Austrian schilling was the steadfast currency of the nation. Generations of Austrians grew up with schilling and groschen coins, spending them on everything from groceries to cinema tickets. These coins became a familiar part of daily life, symbols of Austria's post-war reconstruction, economic miracle, and enduring neutrality. The final act in this long drama of currency changes came at the dawn of the 21st century. As a committed member of the European Union, Austria chose to adopt the new single European currency. On January 1, 2002, the schilling was replaced by the euro. After nearly 80 years, the beloved shilling was phased out, and Austrians began using euro and cent coins. While there was some nostalgia for the old currency, the transition was smooth. The national side of Austria's euro coins continues the country's numismatic tradition, featuring famous Austrians like Mozart, symbols like the Edelweiss, and landmarks like St. Stephen's Cathedral, ensuring that a piece of Austrian identity remains in every pocket. Even in the age of the euro, the Vienna Mint has not lost its touch for creating coins that are desired all over the world. While it produces the standard circulating euro coins for Austria, its real claim to fame in the modern era lies in its spectacular bullion coins and historic restrikes. These are coins made not for spending at the supermarket, but for investors and collectors who appreciate their intrinsic value and artistry. Chief among these modern marvels is the Vienna Philharmonic, one of the world's most beautiful and best-selling bullion coins. First issued in 1989, it is a stunning tribute to Austria's unparalleled musical heritage. The Philharmonic coin, available in both gold and silver, and occasionally platinum, is a masterpiece of engraving. One side features a stunning depiction of the great organ from the Golden Hall of Vienna's Musikverein, the concert hall where the Vienna Philharmonic Orchestra performs its famous New Year's Day concert. The other side displays an artful arrangement of orchestral instruments: a cello, 4 violins, a Viennese horn, a bassoon, and a harp. The coin is pure elegance and has won numerous awards for its design. It's a way for music lovers and investors alike to own a piece of Austrian culture struck in pure, precious metal. Alongside this modern classic, the Vienna Mint continues to honor its imperial past by producing official restrikes of some of its most famous historic coins. We've already met the legendary Maria Theresa Thaler, which is still struck with the date 1780. But the mint also produces restrikes of gold ducats, gulden, also called florins, and kronen. The most popular of these are the 1 ducat and 4 ducat gold coins, which are restruck with the date 1915. This date was chosen as a tribute to Emperor Franz Joseph I, who died in 1916. It allows the mint to continue producing these classic coins without them being confused with the original, much rarer, historical issues. These restrikes are enormously popular with gold investors around the world. They offer a way to buy gold in the form of a beautiful historic coin with a very high purity. Ducats are 98.6% gold. They are more ornate and interesting than simple gold bars, yet they are traded at a price very close to the spot value of their gold content. By keeping these historic designs in production, the Vienna Mint cleverly bridges the gap between its imperial past and its modern role as a global leader in the bullion market. It ensures that the legacy of the Habsburg emperors and their iconic currency continues to shine brightly in the 21st century. So, you found an old Austrian coin in a grandparent's drawer or bought one at a flea market. You might be wondering if you've stumbled upon a hidden treasure. How do you figure out what it's worth? The value of a coin depends on a few key factors, and it's not always as simple as its age. The first and most important things to identify are the coin's denomination, like kreuzer, krone, or schilling, its date and its mint mark, which is a small letter that tells you where it was made. For Austrian coins, the A mint mark signifies the main mint in Vienna. These basic details are the starting point for any valuation. The next crucial factor is rarity. A coin might be very old, but if the mint produced millions of them, it might not be worth much to a collector. Conversely, a more recent coin from a year with a very low mintage, meaning the number of coins produced, could be surprisingly valuable. For instance, a common Roman coin might be worth less than a rare shilling from a specific year. You can find mintage figures in specialized coin catalogs or on numismatic websites. These catalogs, like the standard catalog of world coins, are the collector's Bible and provide estimated values based on rarity and historical sales. Condition or grade is perhaps the most significant multiplier of a coin's value. A worn, scratched, and barely legible coin will be worth only a fraction of the price of a pristine, uncirculated example of the exact same coin. Collectors use a detailed grading scale, ranging from poor to perfect, uncirculated or proof. A proof coin is a specially struck coin with a mirror-like finish, made for collectors, and is the highest quality possible. Even a small difference in condition, such as a few minor scratches, can make a huge difference in price, especially for rare coins. Always handle coins by their edges to avoid leaving fingerprints, which can damage their surface. Finally, the metal content itself provides a baseline value, especially for coins made of gold or silver. A gold ducat or a silver Maria Theresa Thaler will always be worth at least the market price of the metal they contain. This is known as the melt value. For common date bullion coins and restrikes, the value will be very close to this melt value. For rarer collectible coins, however, the numismatic value, the value to a collector, can be many times higher than the melt value. So, before you think about selling a coin for its silver content, do a little research. You might be holding a small piece of history that is far more valuable than its weight in metal.